Is a writer who lives in Portland and who teaches creative writing and English at Colby College in Waterville. She's out with a new novel. It's called Bad Animals, and she's with us here on 207. Thanks for coming in. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
So this is kind of a weird fact. 207 has been on the air for more than 20 years. We've talked to lots of writers, but this is the first time ever that I have interviewed someone, and I've got one other interview that I'm doing today, and that other person has dedicated a book to you. It's Monica Wood. She dedicated her latest book to you and three other friends. What does this say about the tightness of the Maine literary community?
Oh, my heart is so full hearing that and hearing you say that. Yeah, I mean, it says everything, right? I moved here almost 17 years ago, and this was the first book I sort of started and finished in Maine, and the tightness of the Maine writing community is everything to me. I teach with so many great writers at Colby College. I have a writing group that includes Monica Wood, so I get to read her incredible novels in first drafts, and she reads mine and helps me make them better.
Writing is a solitary occupation. You're just there looking at a screen or maybe jotting thoughts down on a piece of paper. What is it like? How important is it to have people who are there to support you and who understand what you're going through?
It is everything. I mean, writers, it's true, it's solitary, and there's so much time just by oneself, and one has to not be afraid of that, right? So learning to be alone with yourself and your ideas is so important, and I try to teach my students, and yet I organize my life around classroom settings where people are talking about their stories, and reading groups where we are basically saying, I've come to the end of what I know, and I need sympathetic readers to sort of see my vision and help me bring it forward. And who are not going to be afraid of my weird mistakes and my weirdnesses, you know, who aren't looking to sort of make the novel as they would write it, or as, you know, a kind of
non-judgmental support. That's what we all need in life.
We all need.
So you talked about your vision. What was the original vision, the original spark of an idea that you had for Bad Animals?
Well, I think this is the first novel I've written that's set in Maine, and I was interested in writing a novel about a librarian. I love books. I love libraries and book people, and I wanted to write about a librarian. I wanted to write about literary culture and also about Maine. And I think the novel is in some ways a novel about the romance that people have for Maine, and the kind of way that there's a famous writer in my novel who summers in Maine and who comes to Maine as a place to create. And my main character is a librarian who lives here year-round and sees maybe more of the state or the people than he does.
Well, we're talking about famous writers and about the tightness of the Maine literary community. There's a blurb here from Jennifer Finney Boylan, who says of this work, it's about the lies we tell each other and the ones we tell ourselves. That's a pretty rich vein for a writer. You could live to be 110 and not run out of stories to tell on that theme.
Ever, that's correct. And I think all good books have to be in some ways about the lies we tell ourselves, and about kind of the deceptions that that writers investigate to come to understand ourselves better. But it's not about sort of, I'm not interested in writing about people who are easy to like or don't make mistakes. So in other words, seeing people who are complicated and make sometimes bad decisions, that's most interesting to me as a writer.
Speaking about bad decisions, I was wondering, you teach writing, and so I'm sure that you offer guidelines to your students. Do you sort of break your own rules when writing? Do you ignore your own suggestions, the things that you ought to do?
All the time, and I think I'm so self-conscious about offering my students dogma and then seeing in a million places that dogma broken, like writers breaking rules all the time. So, you know, to say this is typically how something is done, if you can break that rule and make it work, all the power to you. And so I'm working on both sort of learning the rules and breaking them, and that's something we talk about all the time in my classroom.
Again, the name of the book, Bad Animals. Sarah Braunstein, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate you being here. Good luck with this. If you want more information on the book or the author, just head to the 207 section of our app or website, and you'll find more there. And stay with us. We're going to be back right after this.